Yo, what's good, everybody? Hope y'all are having a super blessed day, and welcome back to Sharpe Sports. And as you guys can read by the title, today I'm going to be giving you guys my mock draft. Now, guys, I spent well over 8 hours, not even including all the film watching before that, but just literally just setting up the players. I spent well over 8 hours. So guys, get this video to 500 likes. And if you're not subscribed yet, please be sure to hit that subscribe button and watch the entire video, because I want to hear what you guys think of my mock draft, and I want to hear what you guys would change in the comment section. All right, but let's jump straight into it. I'm not going to bore you guys with the boring stuff. Number one, Bengals are taking Joe Burrow, quarterback out of LSU. We all know that. Secondly, the Redskins are going to be taking Chase Young, defensive end out of Ohio State. Those two are basically lock-in, so let's get to the real picks. So with the third pick, I actually have the Detroit Lions trading out of that pick to the Chargers, and I have the Chargers picking up Tua Tagovailoa, quarterback out of Alabama. Now, from what I've been reading and seeing from NFL reporters, I've been hearing that the Chargers are not 100% sold on Justin Herbert being their franchise guy. And it makes sense because the AFC West is a young and quickly developing league. Obviously, you got Patrick Mahomes there. Drew Lock and the Broncos are going to be making another name for themselves, as well as the Raiders. They've always been, especially the past couple of years, they've been that team that they can either be 12-4 or 8-8, but they're normally going to be good. And now, yes, obviously the biggest concern and the reason why Tua is not even considered for the top overall pick is because of that hip injury, but he was fully cleared. We're going to see what he looks like after his pro day, which is probably when I'm going to do my mock draft 2.0. But I mean, he is one of, if not the most talented quarterback when healthy in this class. And so it makes sense that if you want to pick up a franchise guy in the top 5 picks, if Tua can throw it and he's still the same player that he was at Alabama, it is a no-brainer that the Chargers should move up and take Tua with that 3rd overall pick. With the 4th pick, I have the New York Giants taking offensive tackle out of Iowa, Tristan Wirfs. Now, firstly, the Giants need to pick up an offensive lineman because they allowed the 11th most sacks in the NFL last year, as well as they have a young and developing quarterback in Daniel Jones that they need to be protecting for the foreseeable future. But the reason why I gave them Tristan Wirfs over a guy like Jedrick Wills or maybe Mekhi Becton is because Tristan Wirfs is hands down the most athletic offensive lineman in this class. And what do the Giants like to run a lot of? A lot of screens and a lot of just quick passes to Saquon. So you need an offensive lineman to be able to get out and lead block for him on plays like that, as well as just a guy who's very comfortable in pass blocking and run blocking. And so I think that Tristan Wirfs' athletic ability is going to be a nice mix in that New York Giants offense. And with the 5th pick, I have the Miami Dolphins taking Justin Herbert, quarterback out of Oregon. The Miami Dolphins, they need a franchise quarterback, and from what I've been hearing, they don't really care if they get Tua or Justin Herbert. I mean, for the Miami Dolphins rebuild, they're in a very good position. I mean, both of those guys have a ton of upside. So I mean, it's pretty simple. Most guys either have Tua or Justin Herbert going to the Miami Dolphins. So they're going to be taking a quarterback with that pick. And with the 6th pick, I have the Detroit Lions, which this is the pick that they're going to be getting from the Chargers. I have them taking cornerback out of Ohio State, Jeff Okudah. The Lions gave up the most passing yards in 2019. So it only makes sense that they need a ton of help in that secondary. You pair Jeff Okudah with Darius Slay, and hopefully they're able to help with their secondary woes. And with the 7th overall pick, I have the Carolina Panthers taking linebacker/safety out of Clemson, Isaiah Simmons. Now, Carolina is actually pretty solid on defense, but you just cannot pass up on a player like this. Isaiah Simmons is potentially a once-in-a-generation type player. Like he said in his interviews, he is the answer to the Travis Kelce's and the George Kittles of the NFL. He's going to be the guy that can shut down the big body receivers as well as being fast enough to stick with those faster tight ends. At number 8, I have the Arizona Cardinals taking wide receiver out of Oklahoma, CeeDee Lamb. Now, I personally have Jerry Jeudy scouted as wide receiver 1 in this draft class. However, the connection between Kyler Murray and CeeDee Lamb, I mean, they already had that connection at Oklahoma, and with the passing attack that Cliff Kingsbury likes to have, I just see this as a perfect fit. As well as the fact that Christian Kirk hasn't really been developing into that wide receiver 1 that they were hoping they could, and Larry Fitzgerald, I mean, he's still been balling out, but eventually he does have to retire, so CeeDee Lamb will be a great fit to replace Larry Fitzgerald when he retires and potentially become that team's number 1 receiving option. And with the 9th pick, I have the Jacksonville Jaguars taking defensive tackle out of Auburn, Derek Brown. The Jaguars need help repairing that defensive line. I mean, Yannick Ngakoue is franchise tag for this year, but they're probably going to end up trading him because they don't want to just get nothing once he hits the free market next year. And Calais Campbell's not getting any younger, so they need a young, talented star. Derrick Brown is easily the best player available right now, so it only makes sense for them to pick up Derrick Brown out of Auburn. And with the 10th pick, I have the Cleveland Browns taking offensive tackle out of Alabama, Jedrick Wills. Now, the Cleveland Browns allowed the 5th most sacks last year. And as we all know, the Cleveland Browns have been crazy miss. They're not hit or miss. They've just been miss over the draft. And me personally, I have Jedrick Wills as the most polished offensive lineman in this class. So they need to stop playing around. Don't try and get a Mekhi Becton, who has probably a higher ceiling, but is now nowhere near as polished of an offensive lineman. So get Jedrick Wills, the kid from Alabama, help put more guys with a winning mentality in that locker room, and just get a solid tackle to protect your investment in Baker Mayfield. And speaking of Mekhi Becton, with the 11th pick, I have the New York Jets taking Mekhi Becton, offensive tackle out of Louisville. Now, when you combine Sam Darnold and Luke Falk's sack numbers, the Jets gave up the most sacks in 2019. So they need help protecting their quarterback, as well as a solid run blocking tackle to help get Le'Veon Bell more into the open space. And with the 12th pick, I have the Las Vegas Raiders taking defensive tackle out of South Carolina, Javon Kinlaw. Now, in most people's mock drafts, they have the Raiders taking a receiver right here. However, this receiver class is crazy deep, and the Raiders have another pick, which you'll see in a second. I'm gonna give them a receiver there. So they don't need to reach right now to pick up a receiver. They need help on that defensive line. Ever since they lost Khalil Mack, they haven't really been able to get to the quarterback like that. So you pick up Javon Kinlaw, you have him replace Jonathan Haskins on that D line, and boom, all of a sudden you got that Oakland Raiders defense becoming a force in the AFC West. And with the 13th pick, I have the Indianapolis Colts taking wide receiver out of Alabama, Jerry Jeudy. Now, in most people's mock drafts, they have the Indianapolis Colts either taking Jordan Love right here, or they have Justin Herbert falling and they're picking him up right there. However, just keep on watching, because for my Colts fans, I think you're gonna like how I set you guys up in the first round, but they need more offensive weapons. Now, T.Y. Hilton is a explosive receiver. However, he hasn't shown that he can be consistently on the field. He's dealt with a lot of injuries these past couple of years. They have Eric Ebron there, but they need that second option or potential first option. With Jerry Jeudy, he could become that first option. So I'm gonna give Jacoby Brissett some more offensive weapons and see what he could do in the final year of his contract. And with the 14th pick, I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers taking offensive tackle out of Georgia, Andrew Thomas. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers gave up the 4th most sacks in the NFL last year. Part of that was because of Jameis, but if you're giving up the 4th most sacks, then obviously that offensive line is kind of leaky too. I also see the Tampa Bay Buccaneers picking up Phillip Rivers. So with a veteran, older, not as mobile quarterback, you need to have that offensive line be solid. You already have the crazy weapons on that offensive side of the ball. So you pick up Andrew Thomas, you plug him into that offensive line, you protect Phillip Rivers, and hey, yo, the Bucs might be a little surprise team coming out of the AFC South. I meant NFC South. And with the 15th pick, my favorite team, I have the Denver Broncos taking wide receiver out of Alabama, Henry Ruggs III. After the Broncos traded Emmanuel Sanders to the 49ers halfway through the year, the Broncos offense slowed down a ton. Courtland Sutton showed that he is a blossoming, talented receiver in this league, but we just didn't have that guy who could really take the top off the defense. And who's better at taking up the top off the defense than Henry Ruggs III in this draft? And on top of that, we have strong arm quarterback Drew Lock, who's more than likely going to be the starting quarterback heading into this year. So he's going to have more than enough arm strength to get that deep ball out to Henry Ruggs. And at 16, I have the Atlanta Falcons taking defensive end out of LSU, Clevion Chason. Now, the Falcons have had a ton of injuries on the defensive side of the ball, not just this past year, but the year before that as well. So they need to get some more younger guys in there who are more healthy. So Clevion Chason, I feel like, is a perfect fit for the Atlanta Falcons right here. And at 17, I have the Dallas Cowboys taking safety out of Alabama, Xavier McKinney. Now, there is absolutely no way that the Cowboys are going to be able to pay Dak, pay Amari, and pay Byron Jones. So Byron Jones is more than likely going to be the #1 guy who's going to be bouncing. So you take Xavier McKinney, boop, put him right there where Byron Jones would have been, and there you go. It's pretty much plug and play. And with the 18th pick, I have the Miami Dolphins taking defensive end out of Iowa, AJ Epinesa. Now, the Miami Dolphins need more pass rushing options on that defensive side of the ball. So I have AJ Epinesa ranked as my 3rd best defensive end prospect in this draft. So, hey, it's pretty much plug and play as well. And with the 19th pick, I have the Las Vegas Chargers taking wide receiver out of LSU, Justin Jefferson. Now, while yes, the Raiders might have missed out on Jerry Jeudy and Henry Ruggs, at least in this mock draft, Picking up Justin Jefferson as well as taking Javon Kinlaw with your first overall pick, bro, that is a solid pickup for the Raiders. As we all know, Mike Mayock likes to bring a lot of guys in from winning programs. LSU Tigers just won the national championship. Justin Jefferson is going to help bring more life to that receiver group. I mean, they already got Tyrell Williams. They got Hunter Renfrow. They just need that other guy to really take the top off the defense and just a big body receiver that if they keep Derek Carr, who they could throw to. So I think that Justin Jefferson is a perfect fit for the Las Vegas Raiders. And with the 20th pick, I have the Jacksonville Jaguars taking cornerback out of Clemson, AJ Terrell. Now the Jags need to replace Jalen Ramsey, and I think that AJ Terrell is a perfect fit, as well as they need a corner who can tackle. They gave up the second most yards after the catch this past season, and I think that AJ Terrell out of all the remaining corners is the best tackling as well as the best coverage corner, so I think that that's just the best fit for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now the next pick is probably the most controversial, but with the 21st overall pick, I have the Philadelphia Eagles taking wide receiver out of Baylor, Denzel Mims. Now there's two reasons why I have the Eagles taking Denzel Mims. Now firstly, I think the NFL realized that they kind of messed up by letting DK Metcalf fall to the third round of the draft, and I think that Denzel Mims is the closest thing to a DK Metcalf type receiver in this draft class. So they're not going to let him fall as far. And secondly, when you take a look at the Eagles, who have been the two most productive receivers in that Eagles offense over the past couple of years? That is right, speedster Deshaun Jackson and big body wide receiver Alshon Jeffrey. So you mix the two together and you get a player like Denzel Mims. And with the 22nd pick, I have the Buffalo Bills taking wide receiver out of Clemson, T. Higgins. Now I know I said earlier that this wide receiver class is really deep. However, I think once some of these receivers start coming off the board, I think that teams are going to just start spamming, just taking the guys that they really want off the board. And I think that the Bills need a bigger body receiving option because all the other receivers that they have on that team are more speed, like shorter interval type of receivers, i.e. guys like Zay Jones and Cole Beasley. So the Bills defense is already solid, as we all know. They have some emerging young talent in that backfield. They have enough complementary pieces on that offensive side of the ball to help out Josh Allen. So I think that's going to be a perfect fit in Buffalo. And with the 23rd pick, I have the New England Patriots taking wide receiver out of Arizona State University, Brandon Ayuk. Now this pick is obviously heavily dependent on whether or not Tom Brady re-signs with them or not. Now obviously if they can't re-sign him, clearly this pick is either going to be Justin Herbert if he really falls or Jordan Love. But I believe that Tom Brady is going to re-sign with the Patriots, and they are in desperate need of a true number one wide receiver. Julian Edelman is a very solid number two guy, but he can't always just be that number one target. I mean, Tom Brady treats him like one, but you get a guy like Brandon Ayuk who has crazy acceleration and is really good with the ball after the catch. So you give Tom Brady a guy like that, and that could really help open up that offense in New England. And with the 24th pick, I have the New Orleans Saints taking safety out of LSU, Grant Delpit. Now I think this is a great pick for the New Orleans Saints. They need help in that secondary, and Grant Delpit is not only a great leader on the defensive side of the ball, but he is a big body safety who's going to be able to compete with the guys like Julio and Mike Evans who are in that division. And with the 25th pick, I have the Minnesota Vikings taking cornerback out of Alabama, Trevon Diggs. Now the Minnesota Vikings gave up the 11th most passing yards through the air this past year. However, they only gave up the 29th most yards after the catch, which lets me know that the Vikings secondary players are in the right position to make the play. They're just not able to win those 50-50 balls and knock the ball out the air, but they are making the tackles that they need to. So you take a guy like Trevon Diggs, who was a former wide receiver at Alabama, who has crazy ball skills in the air. You give him a guy like that who can just break up passes left, right, and center for the Vikings. And with the 26th pick, I have the Miami Dolphins taking offensive tackle out of USC, Austin Jackson. Now the Dolphins gave up the 8th most sacks last year, as well as them picking up Justin Herbert with their first round pick. They're going to want to protect their investment, so picking up Austin Jackson is a kind of a no-brainer right here. And with the 27th pick, I have the Seattle Seahawks taking offensive tackle out of Houston, Josh Jones. Now Seattle was tied for first for the most sacks allowed last year, so clearly they need to help that offensive line. I have Josh Jones being the best available tackle, so again, Pretty simple, just give them the best available tackle. And with the 28th pick, I have the Baltimore Ravens taking linebacker out of Oklahoma, Kenneth Murray. Now to me, it's just a great scheme and team fit. The Baltimore Ravens blitzed the quarterback more than anybody else last year, and Kenneth Murray is great at doing that. He is a quick and instinctual linebacker that I think will fit perfectly in that Ravens defense. And with the 29th pick, I have the Tennessee Titans taking defensive end out of BYU, Yetur Gross-Matos. Now again, I have to do a 2.0 mock draft because if the Titans don't end up re-signing Ryan Tannehill, then this pick is clearly going to be either Jordan Love or whichever quarterback is still available right here. But see them more than likely re-signing Ryan Tannehill. I say, yo, give Mike Vrabel some more defensive weapons. You can never have too many defensive ends, and I think Yetur Gross-Matos is going to be a perfect fit in Tennessee. And with the 30th pick, I have the Green Bay Packers taking offensive tackle out of Boise State, Ezra Cleveland. Now, clearly the Packers' #1 issue is they need another receiver. When Devonta Adams went down, they were struggling heavily at the receiver position. However, I don't see them reaching and pulling up a second round receiver up into the first round. Like I said, this is a very deep receiver class, so they're gonna have time to pick up some guys in probably the 2nd, 4th, and maybe 5th round to help solidify that receiver room. However, Aaron Rodgers is getting older, and so they need to protect him. And so I think that after the combine performance that Ezra Cleveland had, he's gonna bump himself up into that first round, and he's going to be a solid pickup for the Packers. And with the 31st pick, this is actually supposed to be the 49ers pick. However, I have them trading with the Indianapolis Colts, and I have the Colts taking Jordan Love, quarterback out of Utah State. Now, the reason why I have this trade is because the 49ers need picks in this draft. Outside of their first round pick, they don't pick again until the 5th round. So trading with the Colts will pick up maybe like a 2nd and like a 3rd, or maybe like a 2nd and next year's 2nd or 3rd round pick, but they just need more picks. So trading back with the Colts is gonna be a perfect fit for them. And like I said earlier, I think that Jordan Love is gonna fall a little bit more because basically after the Dolphins, unless the Titans or the Patriots, if they need a quarterback help, you might lose Jordan Love there, but I see him falling enough to where the Indianapolis Colts could trade back into the first round. They picked up their star receiver in Jerry Jeudy with their first pick, and then they get their future and hopeful franchise quarterback of the future in Jordan Love. And with the final pick in my mock draft 1.0, I have the defending Super Bowl champ Kansas City Chiefs taking cornerback out of LSU, Kristen Fulton. Now the Chiefs need to solidify that defense. They were able to figure it out on the tail end of the season, and that's why they ended up winning the Super Bowl. However, their starting corners right now could potentially hit free agency, and so they need another corner to help solidify that secondary, especially in the AFC West. We got receivers like Keenan Allen, Courtland Sutton, potentially Henry Ruggs III, and Justin Jefferson. But all right, that is my mock draft 1.0, guys. I put a ton of work into this video, so if you have gotten to this point of the video, please leave this video a like. And also, I really want to hear what you guys have to think of my mock draft. Please be sure to comment down below what trades that you would make, what picks that you would switch around, things like that. All right, you guys, with that being said, hope that y'all have a super blessed rest of your day, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Ciao.